Hi, and welcome to Classic Advice. My name is Scarlett Classic. I am your host. This is my podcast all about my advice that I'd like to share with you. I also have co hosts on, and they bring their own unique experience and expertise to the show, which is awesome. So I'm so happy that you decided to join, and let's dive right into the episode. This week, the topic that I had picked was grief and coping with it and grieving those that have not only just passed on, but grieving those relationships that we've lost for whatever reason that may be. Friendships broken, divorce, falling out with family, whatever that looks like, but a relationship lost with someone that used to be very dear with us, and now the relationship is broken. The relationship, even if we see the person still, sometimes when a relationship is broken, there's just no going back. Grieving the loss of the relationship that we used to have. Grief affects all of us, and it's something that I've been struggling with lately, and I thought, well, that would be a good time to talk about it with you guys because it is so close to my heart right now. Something that my therapist told me after I got divorced was she said that grief is harder to process when the person is still alive. And when she said that, I realized for one that it was true, but also that helped me have a little bit more grace and empathy for myself. And that really helped me in my grieving process because it's a given when someone passes on that you're going to be going through an incredible amount of emotional pain. And the grief is going to be huge because you can no longer see the person, you can no longer touch the person, hear the person, smell, all of those senses. The person is gone. So it's a given as a society, that we're going to be going through that emotional pain, but we don't always, when you have a falling out with someone, when you have a falling out with someone and it's just a relationship and the person still lives, it's not a given. People don't show up with your house with a bunch of casseroles after you get divorced. Maybe they did for you, and if they did, well, that is wonderful. I myself didn't experience that. With my conversation with Jenny, I mentioned that I burned in a lot of my divorce alone, and that's not the way to do life. I did it the hard way. I did it the hard way, but it doesn't mean you have to. And my hope with this episode is that you can feel that you're not alone, and that you can feel heard, and that you can feel understood, and that I get you. I get you, and I'm here for you. So coping with grief when the person has passed on, oh, that's rough. It really, the one of my grandmothers that had passed away, she got sick, and it was when I was over living in Europe, and I was very pregnant at the time. We knew she was sick. We could see that the end was near, and I could not come home. That was rough. When you're so pregnant, they don't allow you to fly. So I couldn't come home to say goodbye. And I don't think it's any easier when it's something that is sudden and you don't get to say goodbye, as opposed to when it isn't sudden and you know it's coming, and that dread and that waiting for the big monumentous event to happen of them passing on. But you do get to say the goodbye. To say one is harder to cope with than the other, they're both hard. They're both equally hard. My other grandma, we kind of saw it coming, and this is, I mean, she was in her 90s, so you know, she had a very full, long life, and I got a call from my aunt, and she had said that my grandmother wasn't this my other grandma, because I was back in Canada now, just for the, you know, clear up the confusion there. And she said that grandma, she didn't think grandma had much more time. So I drove out to visit her. She didn't live nearby. I went out to visit her. I brought my guitar and I sat with her and I sang Amazing Grace to her. And she hadn't spoken for a long time. She had suffered a stroke, and so I sang. I sang to her while I played my guitar, and my aunt was there with me in the room with my two very, very young boys. And my aunt told me that that was the first time. I don't know if she was trying to talk to me or if she was trying to sing along with me, but that was the first time she had ever even attempted to speak for a long time. I don't know if it was years or months, but it was a long time since she had tried to speak, and that moment with her I will never forget. It was precious because I got to say my goodbye. I got to have that memory with her. I got to bring her just a little bit of joy before she had passed on. And that was a comfort to me. So taking comfort in those fond memories while they were still with us really helped me. My other grandma that I didn't get to say goodbye to because I wasn't in the country, and oh, I choose to think about all the wonderful, wonderful memories that I had with her, and I focus on those. Both of them, I have some of their jewelry, and sometimes when I miss them, I'll take it out and I'll hold it and I'll just think of a happy memory that I had with them. And another thing too is like my one grandmother always told me that never go out in the winter time without your scarf because you'll get sick. And guess what? When I wore my scarf outside during the winter time, I didn't get sick as often. She was right. And so every time I now put on a scarf, it reminds me of her, and it puts a smile on my face because it reminds me of her. I don't have a lot of experience with grieving the loss of someone young in relation to them passing on, but I've watched others go through it, and I think that is so hard to process, and the unfairness of it all, that they didn't even get the chance to really live. That's heartbreaking. And if you're going through that right now, my heart goes out to you. It's not fair. But what about when they're still alive? What about those broken relationships that we can't mend or that will never be the same again? And we're grieving the loss of someone like that that's still alive. Now, this is so hard because for whatever the reason, divorce, a friend, family falling out, whatever it is, the person you grieve no longer reciprocates your love. The relationship has changed. It's so hard because it's a choice. You know, your choice or their choice as to like the ending of the relationship for whatever that reason may be. But it's a choice. Death comes, death isn't a choice. If my grandmother could have had a few more years, I'm sure she would have chosen it. And I'm not trying to negate the grieving process if you've lost someone because they've passed on. That is still really hard. But when they, like a divorce, when they choose that, no, they don't want to be with you anymore and they don't want to work this out, or you've had enough and you've walked away from the relationship or the friendship or whatever it may be. It's a choice, and the person still lives and is in the world, but the relationship with you is gone. So you're grieving that relationship that you used to have. And they're going out and they're having relationships with other people, but not you. So that's what I mean by I feel like it's harder because they're still alive. They just don't want to be with you, or you have been too hurt and you don't want to be with them. But when you grieve the loss of a living person, it's such a hard pill to swallow. And it's important to recognize it so we can grieve ourselves and give ourselves that grace and empathy to say, yes, it is hard. No, it's not obvious because they don't have a funeral and a tombstone. Like a death is so obvious, and we put it in the newspaper, and it's this big funerals happening. And when a relationship ends or we don't have any of that. We don't hold a funeral when we have a divorce. We don't hold a funeral when we have a falling out with one of our family members. We don't hold a funeral when we have a falling out with our best friend. But in a sense, I think we need to. At least, maybe not as a big, inviting 100 or plus people or whatever, but to hold it for ourselves, to take that time to say, yes, this is something big. This is a big, major event. We need to allow ourselves to have that empathy for ourselves, to give ourselves that grace, to say this is something hard. Emotional pain is so hard. So coping techniques that I have found helpful. I've said this before in previous episodes, but allowing yourself to feel those emotions, pushing emotions down, they will just surface in other ways, in my experience, and it's not for the better. It's okay to be angry and sad and in pain. Just be mindful in your anger that you're not hurting other people when you are angry. But let it out in a good scream or a punching bag, or go for a walk or a run. Allow yourself to be angry. Just feel it. And for me, when I suppressed my anger, I did it for many, many years. But then it surfaced again, and it was just huge again. So stuffing it down really doesn't work, because it's just, there's only so long you can stuff it down for before it starts to seep out of your pores and come out in other ways. And I encourage you to seek support from your loved ones. Tell your people that you're hurting. Because if you were so good in this society to put those masks on and to show everybody else around us that we're fine and perfect and all dandy, like only posting the good times on social media, that's not a true representation of life. If you are really good at putting that mask on, they won't know. They'll think, wow, look at her, she's coping so well. We need to start practicing this with the people around us and telling them that, look, I am having a really, really bad day. I'm really struggling with XYZ. Can we maybe go for coffee later and hang out and just talk? And take comfort in your friends. Because if they're true friends, they're going to want to be there for you. They're going to want to help you. They're going to want to let you cry on their shoulder. They're going to want to help you in any way that they can. And let them be there for you. There is absolutely no shame in that. Because I guarantee you, if you show this soft side to yourself to somebody, the next time that they're really down, guess who they're going to come to? They're going to come to you because you were real with them. And they're going to feel safe with you because they know that you understand and you're not going to be judgmental because you get it. You get their pain. Please don't let pride stand between you and a grief support group or just your best buddies. And I encourage you to keep practicing your self-care, even when it's hard and you feel like you can't even move your legs. Get up, have that shower, engage in things that bring you joy too, because that's a form of self-care, not just the physical things of eating well and showering and, personal hygiene or what have you. But taking the time to do your hobbies and the things that do bring you joy. And you don't need to, if it's somebody that's passed on and you feel like, well, I need to be sad for months. When my grandmother, the one that had gotten sick, she was sick for a few months before she had passed away. And when she finally did pass away, I looked at my ex and I was like, why am I not crying? I should be crying right now. I should be sad. And she had passed away either right before or right after my first son was born. I can't remember which, but it was right within a couple of weeks. And my ex looked at me and he said, because you've been grieving her for months already. Because you saw it coming. I chose to take his advice, and I knew that if she was there, she would want me to be happy. She would want me to take the joy of having my first son and just reveling in that joy. Because she was so fond of laughter. She always wanted to laugh. I loved that about her. And like I mentioned before, find those little ways that you can honor that person's memory. Like I said, I take out a piece of their jewelry and I'll sit and I'll just think about them for a little while. I'll go through old photos. When I'm doing something that I know they would love, it brings a smile to my face to think about them for a few minutes and to remember them and to remember their laugh and their quirky little things that they would do. And be patient, because grief can't be rushed and it can't be forced to be over with fast. Or think that it's going to be, 3 months and then it's going to be over. Or it's been 10 years, I should be over this. No, that's not how grief works. And I know that's not what we all want to hear, because I think we would rather have a quick, easy fix. And there is no quick, easy fix to coping with grief. There's no quote-unquote right or quote-unquote wrong on how to deal and process with your grief. And maybe that's not what you want to hear, but just know you're not alone in this, because every single person on this planet has experienced grief. And for me, grief comes in waves, and it will hit me at the most unexpected times. Something will remind me of the person, whether that be a person that has passed on or otherwise, that's still around and living their life. And it'll hit me. And I feel like I'm just going to bawl. Take some time when those moments hit you to just take a deep breath. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, it's okay. You're going to get through this. Because we've, I'm sure, gone through, each and every one of us have gone through really difficult times that in the past we thought, how on earth am I going to get through this? And I love that saying, that to date, You have survived 100% of your bad days. I'm going to repeat that because it's really important you hear it. You have survived 100% of your bad days to date, and you will survive this pain and this grief that you are feeling now. If you need a friend, a shoulder to cry on, you know what to do. Go to my website, shoot me an email, let's chat. Pick up the phone, call your best friend. So this is my challenge for you this week, is to pick up the phone, call your friend, tell them you're struggling, and let them be there for you. Go to my website, write me an email, tell me you're struggling, and let me be there for you. Because I speak for your friend and I speak for me in the sense that we want to be there for you. If they're a true friend, they will want it. And the second part of my challenge for you this week is to give yourself some grace and some empathy. That this is hard. That this isn't a quick fix. But you will survive this day because you have survived 100% of your other days to date. All right. So you guys take care. I know this was a bit of a heavy episode, but you can do this. I believe in you, and you got this. And before I let you go for the week, I would love it if you went over to my website, wrote me an email, and shared how you cope with your grief. And I'll do a little bonus episode about it so that we can lift each other up and share with everybody here in this community how we deal with this, because it is so hard. And to quote my buddy JJ down in Maine, please pause, love yourself through your grief, and be aware of your ripple. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you for listening all the way to the very end. Aw, you're the best. My website is ClassicChronicles.ca. If you want to head on over there, I have my co-hosts all listed there. If you click on their photos, it'll take you directly to their website. Go say hi to them. They would love to hear from you. Podcasters love hearing from their listeners. So go say hi. Don't be shy. And if you want to as well, there is a Buy Me a Coffee link on there, which all the proceeds I use to just pour right back into my podcast. It does cost me just a little bit to have this podcast going, and I would love to be able to support it instead of taking it out of my own pocket and maybe, take the kids for an ice cream because they don't like coffee. I love coffee though. So, all right, you guys take care and we'll see you next week. Bye.